The high quays of Talos port hung over a green, angry sea. Metal decks shook under the weight of cargo. Shuttles roared overhead. Vendors shouted in a dozen languages. Bright lights flashed from signs and hollow boards. Smells mixed in the air: salt, smoke, burned oil, and hot food. In the middle of all this, Kalen Ward stood in the shadow of a faded orange awning. He wore a dark harbor vest with a bright ID tag on his chest. One hand held a dented food tray. His back rested against a support pillar. To anyone else, he looked like a man on a normal break. But Kalen never really rested. His eyes kept moving. He watched the flow of people across the deck. He watched the way crates swung on overhead lines. He watched the dock doors, the ramps, the narrow spaces where crowds bunched too tight. Years ago, he had worked in the emergency dive corps. He had pulled people out of floods, fires, and broken habitats. He had learned one hard truth: a normal day could turn into a disaster in one breath. Now he worked as a harbor allocation officer. On paper, his job was simple: ships in, ships out, no crashes, no blockages. But in his mind, it was still about saving lives. He tried to stop problems before they started. He took a slow breath and looked at his plate. Thick strips of seared meat sat on top of a pile of grain curls, covered in dark glaze. Steam rose from the dish and hit his face with heat and spice. A small cup of hot root drink sat beside it. He ate in quiet, steady bites. Not for pleasure, for fuel. His shift had started before sunrise. His slate had not stopped buzzing for hours. Now he had a few minutes of silence, but his shoulders were still tight and his jaw still locked. Then he saw something wrong. A small shape slipped between Adult's legs near the food stalls, not moving with the stream, moving against it. Kalen's eyes locked on it at once. At first, he thought it was a human child. But when the figure stopped at the edge of a grill's shadow, he saw the truth. The boy was alien. His skin was a pale green, stretched too tight over thin bones. His golden eyes were too big for his face, with narrow slit pupils. His hair was dark red and cut in jagged chunks, like someone had hacked it with a dull blade. He wore a dock worker's tunic several sizes too big, patched at the elbows and ribs. Bare ankles showed above cheap flex sandals worn smooth at the heels. The boy wasn't looking at people. He was looking at plates. His eyes followed every tray that passed, every slice of meat, every leaf wrap. His throat moved each time like he was trying not to swallow. His hands stayed at his sides, fingers opening and closing slowly. Empty. Kalen felt anger rise. Not wild anger. Not rage. A clean, hard feeling in his chest. He had seen this before, on flooded worlds, on broken stations. People drowning in plain sight while others pretended not to see. The boy took one small step closer to the grill. The vendor glanced down and scowled. Off, the man snapped, waving a greasy rag. You breathe on it, you buy it. The boy flinched back at once. His shoulders folded in. He took 2 quick steps away from the heat. But his eyes did not leave the food. His throat moved again. His stomach gave a small, hollow sound even Kalen could hear over the noise. Kalen set his fork down on the tray. The quiet clack of metal on metal was nothing in the noise of the keys, but to him, it sounded like a decision. He pushed himself off the pillar and walked toward the grill. People in line saw his harbor vest and shifted aside. The vendor looked up, eyebrows raised. Another plate, Kalen said. Heavy portion. Extra grain. Wraps. Hot drink. The vendor's gaze slid past Kalen, toward the boy lurking a few steps away. You feeding that one? He asked. Been hanging around all week. Eyes like a hungry dog. Kalen's voice went flat. Plate, he repeated. The vendor snorted, but did as told. Meat hit the hot surface with a wet hiss. Glaze bubbled. Steam rose. He piled grain curls onto a tray, added wraps, poured a warm, sweet drink into a small cup. Kalen paid with a chip tap and stepped away. He set the tray on a low crate near the pillar and crouched beside it. The height was perfect for a small body. The boy stared at the food like it was a trick. Kalen kept his voice calm and firm. Eat, he said. You're shaking. Up close, he could see the tremble in the boy's arms, the tight skin on his neck, the way his eyes never fully left the meat. I can't, the boy whispered. His voice was dry and rough. My mother said not to take from humans. She says they always want something back. Kalen picked up one strip of meat, blew on it until the steam softened, and held it halfway between them. Today, he said, I want this gone. If you eat it, you help me. That's all I want back. The boy's stomach growled loudly. For a long moment, he looked at the meat, then at Kalen's face, then back at the food. Around them, people walked past. Some glanced over. One woman smirked and muttered to her friend, "Soft harbor man. Today 1 cub, tomorrow 10. Kalen ignored her. His focus stayed on the boy. The child stepped forward, snatched the meat, and bit down hard. And in that small, desperate act, Kalen knew. This was no longer just a break. It was the start of something that would change all 3 of their lives. The food disappeared fast. Rill tried to eat slowly the way Kalen told him, but hunger pushed him forward. His small hands shook each time he reached for another piece. Sauce smeared on his lips. His eyes closed for 1 short second as the warm food hit his empty stomach. Kalen stayed crouched beside him, patient and quiet. "Small bites," Kalen said. "You keep more that way." Rill listened, not because he trusted Kalen, but because starving bodies listened to anyone who fed them. He gave his name, Rill, in a low, shy voice. He said he hadn't eaten anything else today. Or yesterday. Not really. Kalen's chest tightened. This wasn't one bad day. This was a pattern someone had forced him to live. He asked where Rill's mother was. "Lower piers," Rill whispered. "She cleans hulls. She said I should wait for her. She said no begging. No debts. No taking from humans." Kalen understood the rule. He respected the reason behind it. Hard choices made by hard lives. He pushed the tray closer. "Tell her a harbor officer insisted you eat on his break," he said. "Say I didn't want an argument." Rill frowned. "She will still be angry. She gets tired. When she's tired, she argues faster." Kalen understood that too. Tired people who carried someone else's survival often snapped before they broke. Then, a sound cut through the noise. Fast footsteps. Heavy heel strikes. A rhythm full of anger. Kalen recognized the tone before he even turned. A woman pushed through the crowd like a storm cutting across a calm sea. People stepped aside without thinking, shocked by the force in her stride. She was tall, strong. Her green skin glowed darker at the shoulders and lighter at the collarbones. Tiny flecks of gold dotted her temples, catching the sunlight like sparks. Her hair, dark red, thick and wavy, hung damp across her back, as if she had rushed straight from the lower docks. Her tied-wrap skirt clung to her legs, showing muscle shaped from real work, not gym equipment. Her arms were tense and ready, fingers curled just enough to show the anger she carried like a blade. This was Rill's mother. She spotted her son beside the crate and stopped with a sharp inhale. In one motion, she grabbed his wrist. "What did you do?" she asked, her voice low and rough. Rill didn't pull back. He lifted his face to her. "I was hungry," he said. "He fed me." Her eyes snapped to Kalen. "Did he bother you, human?" she asked, words cutting through the air like metal. Vendors and dockhands around them went quiet. Some turned to watch openly now. Before Kalen could answer, a man leaning on a post laughed. "Man feeds a stray cub," he said loudly, "and doesn't want anything back. Must be charity day." Another voice added, "Feed the cub, get the mother as dessert." The laughter that followed was thin and cruel. Rill's mother stiffened. Shame flushed under her skin, turning her neck and cheeks a darker gold green. Her grip tightened until Rill winced. Rill whispered, "Mother." She loosened, but only a little. Kalen stood slowly, straightening from his crouch. He kept his hands low, palms visible. Calm voice. Calm posture. "He was just near the grill," Kalen said. "I bought a plate. He ate. That's all." "That's all," someone mocked from the grill. "Right." The woman stepped closer to Kalen, close enough for him to feel the heat of her breath. She looked him up and down, reading him in seconds. His scars, his stance, his steady eyes. Then she lowered her voice, so only he could hear. "If you fed my son," she said, "then you fed me." Her hips shifted slightly. Her chin dipped. The gesture was practiced, an offer she had given before. "Take us with you," she whispered. "I can pay you." Kalen felt attraction hit him. Sharp, real, but the meaning behind the offer hit harder. This wasn't desire. This was survival turned into currency. His jaw tightened. He forced his shoulders to relax so he wouldn't look threatening. "That's not what I want," Kalen said quietly. Thinking that's the only way to repay a meal, that's the insult. Her eyes widened, confusion flickering behind the anger. No one had ever answered her like that. Behind them, more laughter sparked. "Harbor Hero wants a family now." Next, he'll be registering himself as her anchor. Kalen ignored all of it. His focus stayed on her. You and your boy look like you haven't slept safely in days, he said. I have an apartment. Warm floor. One bed. Hot water. You can leave in the morning if you hate it. No payment. No bargain. Ril's mother blinked, stunned by the absurdity of kindness. Why? She whispered. Why would you share your home with a stranger? Kalen didn't hesitate. Because I saw your son drowning in plain sight, he said. And I don't walk past drowning people. Ril tugged her tide wrap gently. Mother, he whispered, just one night. If he lies, we run. Her throat worked. Fear and exhaustion battled in her eyes. Finally, she swallowed once. One night, she said. No touching. No jokes. No hidden cost. Kalen nodded. Agreed. And so the three of them, one human, one alien mother, and one starving cub, walked together into a quiet corridor that none of them knew would change their lives forever. Kalen led them away from the noisy terraces, down a quieter path that curved along the outer edge of the habitat stack. The loud shouts of vendors faded behind them. The smell of smoke and metal slowly turned into cool wind and sea salt. Ril walked close to his mother, holding her tide wrap tightly. His steps were slow, heavy from the meal, but his eyes stayed alert. He kept glancing at Kalen, unsure if he should trust the man or stay scared. Risa walked with her jaw set tight. Every few seconds, she looked behind them to see if someone followed. Her shoulders were tense. Her fingers twitched near her side, as if ready to pull her son behind her at any sudden movement. Kalen kept a calm pace. Not too fast, not too slow. He stayed half a step ahead, but never far enough to make them nervous. You still have time to change your mind, he said quietly. Risa didn't answer. Her silence was not anger, it was calculation. She had lived too long in dangerous corners. She knew that trusting the wrong person could cost everything. They reached a long hallway with soft floor lights. On one side, a metal railing looked out toward the green water far below. On the other, a line of small doors stood evenly spaced. Each one belonged to a person who had a safer life than she ever did. Kalen stopped at a door halfway down. The panel beside it flickered with old wiring. He pressed his palm to the reader. The lock clicked, but the door only slid halfway before jamming. Kalen set his shoulder against it and pushed. The metal groaned. The door slid open fully. Risa watched carefully. Not the door, him. The way he used strength without anger. The way he didn't curse or show off. Just solved a problem and stepped aside. Welcome to my very average home, Kalen said. Warm air drifted out. The smell was simple. Soap, metal, dried herbs. No alcohol. No sweat of strangers. No signs of messy fights or broken things. Inside was a small living space with a narrow kitchenette, a couch, and a short hallway leading to a bedroom. A single window let in pale evening light. Ril stepped in first. His small feet paused at the threshold. His eyes darted everywhere. The corners, the shadows, the door frame, the ceiling. Testing for danger the way children who grow up in risky places do. Risa followed slowly. Her heart thudded hard. She felt strange stepping into a place with clean walls. Doors that locked. Air that smelled safe. Kalen removed his vest and hung it on a hook. He kept his voice steady and plain. It's not big, but it's clean, he said. Water heater works most days. Risa walked the edges of the room, checking everything with quiet suspicion. She touched the counter, tested the window latch, studied the couch, each movement small and tense. Ril spotted a metal bowl on the counter with leftover root slices. He sniffed it, but didn't reach out. You can eat them if you want, Kalen said. Risa moved fast, stepping between her son and the food. You eat half, she told him gently, and only if your stomach stays calm. Remember last time? Ril nodded. He took one piece and chewed carefully. Kalen filled 2 cups with filtered water, one for Ril, one for Risa. She accepted hers without looking away from him. It wasn't trust. It was survival. You asked why I brought you here, Kalen said. The real answer. I don't like watching people drown when I can help them stay above water. Risa studied him with sharp eyes. You watched us before today, she said. Kalen nodded. Lower piers. Twice. You carried 2 hull cleaning rigs at once. Most people can't lift one. Risa's jaw tightened. You notice too much, she said. It's my job, Kalen replied. And I pay attention to people who carry too much alone. Ril yawned softly. His shoulders sagged. His eyelids drooped. Kalen gestured toward the bedroom. You two take the bed, he said. I'll stay out here. Floor's warm enough. Couch works fine. Reese's eyes narrowed. You expect nothing? Kalen answered without hesitation. I expect you both to sleep safely tonight. That's all. Something in her posture changed, just a little. A small crack in the wall she kept around herself. Rill walked to the bed and touched the blanket with both hands. It was soft. He climbed up, curled into the corner, and within moments, was asleep. Reese stared at her son, the rise and fall of his small chest, the way his face softened for the first time in weeks. A quiet ache filled her eyes. She turned to Kalen. If we stay, she said, you don't talk to him like he's a burden. He already knows too much for a child. He's just a kid, Kalen replied. In my home, he'll be treated like one. For the first time, Risa didn't argue. She looked at the bathroom door. Her hair smelled of sea salt and sweat. Her skin felt tight from dust and work. I need to wash, she said. Do you have clean clothes? Kalen pulled out a folded dock shirt from a drawer. It's big but clean. She held it in her hands, checked the seams, the smell, the fabric. She hesitated at the bathroom doorway. Kalen, she said quietly, when I step into that shower, I will have nothing to protect us. He met her stare without blinking. You're safe here, he said. Her eyes softened, just a breath, before she closed the door behind her. Hot water began to run. Steam filled the hallway. Kalen didn't move toward the door. He checked the window lock, adjusted the blanket over Rill, sat on the floor beside the couch, and waited, not like a man expecting something, but like a guard keeping watch. It was the first night in years that Risa and Rill were under a roof with no fear pressing against the walls. Morning light entered the apartment slowly, slipping through the narrow window and touching the walls with a soft glow. It was gentle light, not like the harsh lamps of the docks or the flickering signs of the lower piers. Real daylight. Calm daylight. Kalen woke before the sun finished rising. He always woke early. Years of rescue duty had trained his body to open its eyes before danger did. He sat up on the couch, stretching his stiff shoulders. He had slept in short pieces of time, but he didn't mind. He had kept watch. That mattered more than rest. The apartment was quiet. No shouting. No boots stomping past. No alarms. Just quiet. He listened carefully. Two soft breathing patterns came from the bedroom. One small, fast, and light, Rill. One steady but slightly heavier, Risa. They were still asleep. Kalen checked the door lock out of habit, then moved toward the kitchenette. He didn't want to wake them with noise, so he worked gently. He heated a small pan and cracked a few machine-farmed eggs into it. The pan hissed softly. The smell of warm protein filled the air. Rill woke first. He shuffled out of the bedroom with half-open eyes, hair sticking up in all directions. He blinked at Kalen, confused for a moment, as if he forgot where he was. Are you cooking? The boy asked, his voice rough from sleep. Yes, Kalen said. Sit. You need food before you walk anywhere today. Rill climbed into a chair and rubbed his eyes with both hands. For a moment, he looked like any child waking up at home. Not a street child. Not a hungry cub. Just a kid. Risa appeared next. She stepped out carefully, wearing Kalen's oversized shirt. Her hair was dry now, falling down her back in quiet waves. She looked different in the morning light, tired, but softer around the edges. She paused at the doorway. Not out of fear, out of disbelief. You're awake early, she said. So are you, Kalen replied. I heard the pan, she murmured. She sat across from Rill and adjusted the shirt so it covered her legs. She didn't look angry or defensive, just unsure, and used to a room where nothing dangerous waited for her. Kalen plated the food, eggs, warm slices of meat, simple but clean, and set the plates on the table. He split it evenly between them. No comments. No judgment. Rill ate first. Not fast like yesterday. He still ate quickly, but he paused between bites, chewing properly. Safe food made him calmer. Risa waited until he swallowed a few mouthfuls before she started eating. She always watched him first. After a few quiet minutes, she spoke. You said yesterday you'd walk with us to the registry. I did, Kalen said. You still plan to? Yes, if you want it. Risa looked down at her plate, fingers tracing the rim. They raised the fee last time, she whispered. Said alien families cost more. A human woman behind me paid half. They didn't even look at her ID. Kalen's jaw tightened. They won't do that today, he said quietly. Not in front of me. And if they try? Risa asked. I'll call it out. Loud. Clear. And I won't step back. Ril watched both of them with wide eyes. Does this mean we can get a room? He asked. Risa placed a hand on his hair. She didn't promise. She never promised things she couldn't control. We will try, she said. Kalen stood and washed the plates in the sink. Hot water ran over his fingers. He could hear Risa move behind him. She came closer, leaning lightly against the counter. You didn't ask why we don't already have a place, she said. You'll tell me if you want, Kalen replied. She hesitated, then spoke in a calm, flat tone, the kind used to hide pain. The last room we tried, the landlord locked the door. He told me I could keep the place if I stayed alone with him at night. She paused. I walked out. Ril and I slept under a vent for a week. Kalen's grip tightened on the dish. His voice turned low, controlled. That won't happen today. You can't promise that, she said. No, he agreed. But I can stand beside you. And today that might be enough. She looked at him again, not like last night, when fear shaped her eyes, but with something else. Something that felt like the start of trust. She helped Ril into his tunic. She tied her tide wrap around her waist and rolled the sleeves of Kalen's shirt. The mix of clothes looked strange, but it suited her, someone who survived by making whatever she had work. Kalen put on his vest and clipped his ID tags to his chest. You ready? He asked. Risa nodded once. Yes. Let's finish this. Ril held her hand tightly as they stepped to the door. Kalen opened it and waited. He didn't walk ahead. He walked beside them. As they moved down the hallway, Risa whispered, You stay next to us. I was already planning to, Kalen said. They stepped into the lift. 2 dock workers inside looked them over. 1 human officer, 1 alien woman in a loose shirt, 1 small cub holding her hand. The first worker smirked. Kalen turned his head and met the man's eyes without blinking. The smirk faded. The lift door closed. For the first time in a long time, Risa felt a strange, unfamiliar feeling settle inside her chest. Not fear, not danger, but the beginning of safety. The lift doors opened to the lower terraces, where the air felt colder and sharper. The registry tower rose in front of them, tall and white, like a clean building placed in the wrong neighborhood. Risa tightened her grip around Ril's hand. Kalen walked close, not leading, not following, simply beside them. Inside, the registry smelled of cold air, old paper, and polished metal. Rows of small screens blinked. Clerks sat behind glass desks, tapping with bored faces. Most didn't look up when people entered. But when they saw Kalen's vest and ID tag, their posture changed quickly. A clerk at the desk stood straighter. Officer Ward, she said. How may we assist you? It's their registration, Kalen said, motioning toward Risa and Ril. Household unit. Updating status. The clerk's eyes moved from Risa's worn tide wrap to Ril's oversized tunic, then back to Kalen. Something in her face tightened, not cruelty, but doubt, as if she expected trouble. This way, she said. They followed her into a small booth with a flickering privacy screen. Ril stayed close to his mother's hip. Risa kept her shoulders squared, though her jaw trembled slightly. She had been here before. It had not ended well. The clerk activated the console. Risa lifted her wrist so it could scan. Her data appeared on the screen: work permits, cleaning shifts, rejected housing attempts. 3 failed applications in 2 months. The clerk frowned at the record. You attempted registration last cycle, she said. Denied due to outstanding service expectations. Risa's eyes darkened. Kalen stepped forward. Define that, he said, voice flat. The clerk swallowed. Sometimes landlords request voluntary additional tasks, special services, before confirming a contract. Is that legal? Kalen asked. No, the clerk said quickly. But some workers allow it if both sides agree. Kalen's tone sharpened. Not today. Risa watched him with slow surprise. The clerk cleared her throat and typed fast. Of course. Standard fee only. Show the fee, Risa said. The number appeared. Lower than last time. Fair. Real. Risa let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. Kalen placed his wrist near hers on the payment pad, but didn't touch her. Split transfer, he said. 2 contributors, 1 household application. Risa stared at him. You don't have to do that. It keeps the record clean, Kalen said. No one can twist it later. The clerk nodded. He's right. Ril looked between them, eyes bright. Does this mean we get a room? We'll see, Risa whispered. The console showed available units. Most crossed out, some flagged yellow. Risa's heart dropped. She knew the yellow units. Rooms with broken heaters, cracked floors, vents that let in cold pipe smoke. Kalen shook his head. Show mid-tier availability. The clerk hesitated, then opened another list. 2 units blinked green. Risa's breath caught. Mid-tier rooms were clean, safe, warm, but they required a household anchor, someone with a stable job and a clean record. Those are for higher-income families, the clerk said. I know, Kalen replied. We'll take M27. Risa looked sharply at him. No, she whispered. That links your name to ours. If anything happens, you're responsible. You could lose status, credits, future applications, everything. Kalen didn't waver. I know what it means. Why? She asked, voice shaking. Why risk that for us? Because your son deserves a safe door, Kalen said simply. And so do you. Risa turned her head away, struggling to breathe for a moment. The clerk cleared her throat. If you agree, place palms here for anchor confirmation. Risa hesitated, afraid of binding someone else to her life. People always helped her if they wanted something. Always. Mother, Ril said softly, tugging her tide wrap. Please. She looked at her son, his thin shoulders, his hopeful eyes. She pressed her palm to the console. Kalen placed his hand beside hers. The system scanned both prints. Their names appeared together on the screen for a brief second. Risa Kale, Ril Kale, Kalen Ward, before the screen flashed green. A thin metal tag slid out from the slot. Congratulations, the clerk said. Unit M27 is now registered to your household. Risa took the tag with trembling fingers. Ril squeezed her hand tight. Kalen stepped back and let them have the moment. Risa turned to him slowly. Her eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. Kalen, she said, I don't understand why you did this. You will, he said softly. With time. She held his gaze for a long, quiet moment. Not fear, not suspicion, something new. Then she whispered, take us to our door. And for the first time in their lives, Risa and Ril walked toward a home that truly belonged to them. The walk to M27 felt different than the walk to the registry. Risa moved slower. Ril moved faster. And Kalen walked in the same steady way, quiet, present, never pushing, never pulling. The mid-tier corridor was calm. No shouting, no leaking pipes, no graffiti scratched into the walls. Only soft floor lights and the faint hum of heaters behind the panels. Ril ran ahead and then stopped himself, remembering he should stay close. He pressed the metal tag into the reader. The lock clicked with a soft chime. The door slid open. Warm air washed over them. Ril stepped inside first. His face changed. He didn't smile wide, but his eyes softened in a way Kalen hadn't seen before. He touched the floor with both hands again, as if checking whether the warmth was real. It's warm, he whispered. Risa entered next, slowly, as if afraid the room might disappear. She checked everything with the same quiet, careful movements she had used in Kalen's apartment. The window latch, the water panel, the storage cupboards, the corners. Every part of her was searching for danger disguised as comfort. Everything worked. Nothing was broken. No hidden signs of someone else's life. No stains on the floor. No cracked seal around the heater. This is the first place, she said quietly, that isn't asking for something in return. Kalen leaned against the doorframe. It's yours now, he said. Not alone. Not a trick. A home. Risa closed her eyes for a moment, letting that word settle. Home. It felt too big in her chest. Ril jumped onto the bed, pressing down on the mattress. It pushed back gently, not sinking like the old mats he was used to. It's soft, he said. Mom, it's really soft. Risa walked over, sat beside him, and placed her hand on the blanket. Her fingers trembled. Not from fear this time, but from the shock of relief. Kalen stepped inside and closed the door behind him, letting it seal with a clean click. The sound filled the quiet room like a promise. Risa turned to him. You put your name with ours, she said. Do you understand what that means in our records? I do, Kalen said. It means I stand with you. That's all. That's not all, she said. Her voice was steady but low. Where I come from, a man doesn't anchor with a woman unless he wants a place beside her for real. Kalen didn't step back. He didn't blush or stutter. He met her gaze the way he met storms, calm, grounded. I want exactly that, he said. Risa stared at him, shocked by the simplicity of the words. Men she met never spoke plainly. They hid things behind smiles, promises, or tricks. Kalen spoke like a man who meant everything he said. But you don't even know me, she whispered. I know enough, he said. You work hard. You protect your son. You never ask for pity. And you walked away from rooms that wanted to trap you. That's more truth than most people ever show. Her breath caught. Rill rolled on the bed, blissfully unaware of the depth of the conversation. His small hands ran across the clean sheets again and again, as if the fabric might turn into dust if he stopped touching it. Risa looked down at her son, then back at Kalen. You keep saying you want nothing from us, she said softly. But last night, when I was wearing your shirt, when you looked at me, I saw something in your eyes. Kalen didn't deny it. I wanted you, he said simply. But not as payment. Not as trade. Only if you wanted me to. The truth hit her like a slow-moving wave. She took one step closer. Then another. People like me don't get choices, she said. We get rules. We get danger. We get judged before speaking. But right now, I want to know one thing. Ask, Kalen said. If I choose you, she whispered, will you stay? Or will you disappear after the first storm hits? Kalen moved closer. Not quickly. Not with heat. With certainty. I don't leave, he said quietly. Not from water. Not from fire. Not from people. Risa swallowed hard. Her eyes glimmered. Not with tears, but with something deeper. Something she hadn't dared feel in years. She touched the front of his vest, fingers light at first, then firmer, as if testing whether he was real. You keep changing the world I know, she said. I'm not trying to change you, he replied. I'm trying to give you space to breathe. Rill sat up suddenly. Are we staying here forever? He asked. Risa placed her hand on his back. Yes, she said, then looked at Kalen. Her voice gentler than he'd ever heard it. If we choose it, yes. Kalen didn't smile wide or triumphant. He only nodded, one small, grounded nod. I'll help you build this place, he said. Whatever you need. Risa held his eyes for a long moment. Then, slowly, she reached for his hand. Not out of fear, not out of need, out of choice. And Kalen took her hand the exact same way, steady, honest, ready to stand beside her. For the first time in both their lives, a future didn't look terrifying. It looked possible. The afternoon light in Unit M27 softened as the sun dropped behind the upper pylons. A warm glow filled the room, quiet and calm, like the space itself was taking its first deep breath in years. Rill lay stretched on the bed, his small fingers tracing patterns on the blanket. He wasn't bouncing anymore. He wasn't whispering excitedly. He was simply resting, safe in a place where no one could drag him out, shout at him, or lock him in. Risa watched her son with a look Kalen had never seen on her face before. Not fear, not tension, not exhaustion. Peace. A fragile, careful peace. Kalen stood near the window, arms folded loosely, giving them space to experience the room on their own terms. He looked at the sea outside, the waves pushing gently against the pylons, light flickering across the water like broken glass. This place, Risa said softly, feels too quiet. Quiet can be good, Kalen said. It feels dangerous, she added. Like I'll wake up tomorrow and it'll be gone. Kalen turned toward her. It won't. She looked at him for a long moment, as if testing the weight of those words. Risa had lived years where promises meant nothing, where safety lasted one night and vanished the next morning, where men offered help only to demand something painful later. But Kalen's voice had no edge of deception, no hidden meaning, no expectation, just truth. Rill sat up suddenly. Can we stay here tonight? Risa smiled faintly. This is our room now, Rill. Even tomorrow? Yes. Kalen watched the small exchange. Something warm pushed into his chest, something steady and grounding. Risa stood and walked toward him. Her steps were slow, careful, like she was approaching a new world. When she reached him, she didn't look down. She looked straight into his eyes. There is a ritual, she said softly. For my people. It is simple. 2 palms pressed together. A vow to anchor each other. Not ownership. Not marriage. A bond of choice. Kalen didn't blink. You want that with me? Risa hesitated. Fear flickered, but then she nodded once. Yes, she said. Because you didn't save us for payment. You didn't force us into a choice. You stood beside us the whole way. I want a life where someone stands beside me, not over me. Kalen lifted his hand slowly. Show me how. Risa stepped closer. Their hands met, palm to palm. Her skin was warm, trembling slightly. Their fingers aligned naturally. A faint golden shimmer rose from Risa's side and spread across their joined palms. Not bright, not dramatic, just a soft, glowing pulse, like the first heartbeat of trust. The mark faded into Kalen's skin. Risa gasped quietly. "You took the anchor." "Completely." "Of course," he said. "Why wouldn't I?" Her eyes softened, breaking open with a feeling she had kept locked away for too long. Rill slid off the bed and padded across the warm floor toward them. He looked at their joined hands with wide eyes. "What does that mean?" he asked. Risa kneeled down and touched his cheek gently. "It means we're not alone anymore." Rill looked up at Kalen. "So you stay with us?" Kalen placed a hand on the boy's small shoulder. "If you both want me here, I'm not going anywhere." Rill's face lit up in a way Kalen had never seen from him. He threw his arms around both of them, hugging tight, small fingers clutching Kalen's vest and Risa's shirt at the same time. Risa rested her forehead against Kalen's shoulder, her eyes closing as if the weight on her chest had finally lifted. For a moment, the three of them stayed like that, standing in the middle of a small, warm room that suddenly felt much bigger than it was. "You changed everything," Risa whispered. "No," Kalen said. "You survived everything. I just made space for you to breathe." Risa pulled back just enough to look at him. "Then stay. Not because we need protection. Not because of fear. Stay because we choose you." Kalen nodded. "Then I stay." Rill grinned and held tighter. "This is home now." Kalen looked around the room. Simple walls, soft bed, warm floor, calm air. And for the first time in years, he believed it could be home for him too. Risa's hand slid into his, fingers intertwining with quiet certainty. Outside, the sea pushed against the pillars with gentle waves. The docks continued their loud, chaotic rhythm. Ships docking, workers shouting, cargo shifting. The world beyond their door was still wild and dangerous. But here, behind a sealed door they finally owned, they were anchored. Together. A family not born by blood, but by choice. And for the first time in all their lives, safety wasn't a dream. It was real.